The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ambassador David Chen stepped forward. His hands trembled slightly as he gripped the podium. Around him, representatives from 200 alien species watched with barely concealed boredom. Some whispered among themselves. Others examined their data tablets. None seemed to care about what the human was about to say. Chen cleared his throat and began speaking. Honored members of the Council, this is the 5th time Earth has brought this matter before you. The Crithian Dominion continues to violate our territorial sovereignty. Their mining fleets operate illegally in our Kuiper Belt. They refuse to acknowledge our warnings. They refuse to leave our space. A low, rumbling laugh echoed through the chamber. Admiral Vexthor of the Crithian Dominion rose from his seat. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with gray-scaled skin and 4 powerful arms. His species had ruled the stars for 800 years. They commanded 12,000 warships. They had never lost a war. The human speaks of sovereignty, Vexthor said, his voice dripping with contempt. Your species has been in space for less than 50 years. You have 340 ships. We have 12,000. You claim territory you cannot defend. This is not how the galaxy works, little human. Other council members nodded in agreement. The Zelthion representative, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form, spoke next. The Crithians follow established precedent. Younger species must prove themselves worthy of territorial claims. Earth has not yet earned such rights. Chen felt his jaw tighten. He had heard this argument before. Every time he came to the council, he received the same dismissive response. Humanity was too young, too weak, too insignificant to matter. We are not asking for special treatment, Chen said, struggling to keep his voice steady. We are asking for basic respect. The Kuiper Belt is part of our home system. Under galactic law, Vexthor interrupted, is written by those strong enough to enforce it. You are not. The council session ended without resolution. Chen walked back to his shuttle alone. His security team followed at a respectful distance. They could see the defeat in his posture. This had been his last chance to prevent what was coming. 3 days later, the Crithian mining fleet arrived at Sedna. The small research station orbited the distant dwarf planet, home to 2,400 scientists and their families. They studied the formation of the solar system, conducted experiments in the unique environment, and dreamed of humanity's future among the stars. The station's commander, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, received the incoming transmission with confusion. Crithian ships were demanding they evacuate immediately. The station was in their way. They would begin mining operations in 1 hour. This is our station, Mitchell protested. You have no authority here. We're contacting Earth Command right now. The Crithian fleet commander's response was cold. You have 30 minutes. After that, we will remove the obstacle. Mitchell began emergency evacuation procedures, but there was no time. The station housed thousands of people. The evacuation craft could only hold a few hundred at once. They needed hours, not minutes. 28 minutes later, the Crithian warships opened fire. The station's shields lasted 17 seconds. The habitat modules ruptured. The research labs exploded. The docking bays where families waited for evacuation craft disappeared in balls of plasma fire. 2,400 people died in 3 minutes. The news reached Earth 6 hours later. Admiral Sarah Kowalski was in a strategy meeting when her aide burst through the door. The young man's face was pale. His hand shook as he handed her the datapad. Kowalski read the report twice. Her son had been stationed at Sedna. He had been studying stellar formation. He had just turned 23 years old. She closed her eyes and took a slow breath. Assemble the fleet, she said quietly. All of it. Her officers exchanged glances. Ma'am, we only have— I know what we have, Kowalski interrupted. Assemble every ship. Send the activation codes. Begin Protocol Midnight. Protocol Midnight. The word sent a chill through the command center. Every officer knew what it meant. It was the plan they had hoped never to use. Earth's government met in emergency session. The debate lasted 14 hours. Some argued for restraint, for giving diplomacy one more chance. Others demanded immediate action. In the end, the vote was unanimous. Ambassador Chen delivered the final ultimatum to the Galactic Council. His voice was different now. The pleading tone was gone, replaced by something cold and hard. The Crithian Dominion has 72 hours to surrender all personnel involved in the Sedna massacre for trial. They will pay full reparations. They will withdraw from all disputed territories. If they refuse, Earth will respond with military force. Admiral Vexthor watched the transmission from his flagship. He laughed so hard his entire bridge crew could hear him.
The humans threaten us.
300 ships against 12,000. This is glorious. I almost pity them. His tactical officer, Captain Thelros, studied the display with more concern. Sir, what if they have allies we don't know about? Allies? Vexthor scoffed. No species in the galaxy respects them enough to die for them. The humans are alone. They always have been. The 72 hours passed. No Krithian response came. No apology. No offer of negotiation. Only silence. Admiral Kowalski sat in her command chair aboard the flagship Indomitable. Around her, holographic displays showed the position of every human vessel. They had gathered at Mars orbit, hundreds of ships assembled for the first time in formation. She thought of her son. She thought of all the children who died at Sedna. She thought of every time humanity had asked politely and been ignored. The authorization codes came through from Earth's government. 6 leaders of 6 continental unions all agreeing. The order was clear. Kowalski opened the fleet-wide channel. Her voice reached every ship, every sailor, every soldier. Execute, she said. Across 15 star systems, something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to shimmer and tear. Stealth fields that had been maintained for decades suddenly deactivated. And where before there had been empty space, there were now ships. Thousands of ships. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had been very, very patient. And that patience, once exhausted, could transform into something terrible. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives from 200 species all tried to speak at once. The holographic display at the center of the room showed impossible data. Sensor readings from across known space were updating in real time, and none of it made sense. The Zelthion counselor's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. This must be an error. The humans have 340 vessels. Our records are clear. Your records, Ambassador Chen said calmly, show exactly what we wanted you to see. On the display, the numbers continued climbing. 400 ships, 800, 1,500, 2,000. The count kept rising as stealth fields deactivated across 15 star systems. A junior Krithian analyst stumbled into Admiral Vexthor's ready room. The young officer's scales had turned pale with fear. Sir, you need to see this. The humans. They have ships. Thousands of ships. They were hidden. All this time they were hidden. Vexthor struck the analyst across the face. Impossible! We monitored their production. We watched their shipyards. We know their capacity. We watched the shipyards they let us see, the analyst whispered. There are facilities in the Oort cloud, hidden bases throughout the Jovian moons, construction yards in deep space that never showed up on any scan. Sir, they've been building for 40 years. The final count stabilized at 4,200 warships. The display showed them moving into formation, coordinating across vast distances with precision that suggested decades of practice. Captain Thelros studied the tactical data with growing horror. He had spent the last 10 years analyzing human capabilities for the Krithian Military Intelligence Division. He thought he knew everything about Earth's forces. Now he realized he had known nothing. Pull up human historical records, Thelros ordered his team. Military conflicts. Go back to before they reached the stars. The data that appeared made his blood run cold. Humans had fought each other for thousands of years. They had wars that consumed entire continents. They developed weapons that could destroy their own planet. They had a concept called mutually assured destruction, where they built enough weapons to kill themselves several times over, just to make sure no one would dare attack them. They're predators, Thelros muttered. We thought they were weak because they seem peaceful, but they're peaceful because they know exactly how terrible war can be. They've lived it. They've perfected it. Admiral Kowalski addressed her fleet from the Indomitable's bridge. 4,200 captains watched her on their displays. Some were young, fresh from the academy. Others were veterans who had trained for this moment their entire careers. All of them had lost someone at Sedna, or knew someone who had. For 47 years we played the part they expected, Kowalski said. We smiled at their condescension. We accepted their dismissive attitudes. We let them think we were naive children stumbling among giants, but we remembered something they forgot. We remembered that on Earth, The species that survived were not always the biggest or the strongest. They were the ones who adapted, the ones who learned, the ones who were patient enough to wait for the right moment. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Crethians think they're fighting 340 ships. They're about to learn they're fighting 4,200. But more importantly, they're about to learn they're not fighting ships. They're fighting humanity, and humanity doesn't fight wars the way the galaxy does. We don't follow their rules. We don't accept their limitations. We fight to win completely and absolutely. The human fleet began moving, but they didn't head toward Crethian space as expected. Instead, they dispersed to strategic hyperspace junctions throughout the sector. Within 6 hours, every major route into and out of Crethian territory was blocked. Admiral Vexthor stared at the tactical map in disbelief. They're not attacking. They're surrounding us. They're cutting us off. It's a siege strategy, Thelros said quietly. They're isolating us from the rest of the galaxy. No supplies in, no reinforcements, no escape routes. They're going to starve us out. We have 12,000 ships, Vexthor roared. We'll smash through their blockade. Look at their formations, Thelros said, highlighting sections of the display. They're not using standard battle groups. See how they're positioned? Each cluster can support the others. They have overlapping fields of fire. If we attack one point, 3 others can reinforce within minutes. This isn't a blockade, sir. It's a trap. They want us to attack. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. The Zelthion Counselor demanded answers. Ambassador Chen, your government assured us that Earth had no interest in military expansion. You claimed to seek only peace and cooperation. Chen's expression was cold. We did seek peace. We sought it 5 times before this council. 5 times we warned that the Crethians were violating our sovereignty. 5 times we were dismissed. We sought peace right up until they murdered 2,400 of our people. Now we seek justice. Your fleet movements threaten the stability of the entire sector. Another counselor argued. You must withdraw immediately and submit to arbitration. No, Chen said simply. For 47 years we've submitted to the council's authority. We followed your laws even when they disadvantaged us. We've accepted your judgments even when they were unfair. But you have no laws that protect us from massacre. You have no judgments that deliver justice for our dead. So we will deliver our own justice. The council erupted in protest. Chen waited for the noise to die down, then continued. You want to know why we hid our true strength? Because we learned long ago that showing weakness invites attack. But showing strength invites containment. So we appeared weak while becoming strong. We smiled while we prepared. We hoped we would never need these ships, but we built them anyway because hope is not a strategy. A transmission broadcast across all galactic frequencies. It was simple, direct, and terrifying in its clarity. Admiral Kowalski's face appeared on every screen, every display, every communication device in Crethian space. Attention, Crethian Dominion. You have murdered our people. You have laughed at our warnings. You have assumed our patience meant we were harmless. You were wrong. Your territory is now surrounded. Your supply lines are cut. Your fleet is trapped. You have nowhere to run. You have nowhere to hide. This is not a negotiation. This is not a battle. This is an execution of justice. Your leaders will stand trial for war crimes. Your military will surrender. Your government will pay for what you have done. These terms are not negotiable. Your only choice is whether you accept them now or after we demonstrate exactly how serious we are. The transmission ended. Silence fell across Crethian space. 12,000 ships sat in dock, ready for battle but unable to reach the enemy. The Crethian population watched their leaders and waited for an answer that could save them. Admiral Vexthor stared at the screen where the human's face had been. For the first time in his 800-year life, he felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Admiral Vexthor refused to accept defeat. He had commanded fleets for 600 years. He had conquered 17 species. No primitive upstart would make him look like a fool. He assembled a battle group of 500 ships, the pride of the Crethian fleet, and ordered them to the Calaris Junction. They would smash through the human blockade and show the galaxy that the Dominion was still supreme. Captain Thelros stood beside him on the flagship's bridge. Sir, recommend caution. We don't know their full capabilities. Perhaps we should probe their defenses first with smaller forces. Smaller forces? Vexthor's forearms gestured dramatically. We send 500 ships against 80 human vessels. That is overwhelming force. They will break or they will die. Either way we win. The battle group emerged from hyperspace at the Calaris Junction. 80 human ships waited for them in a loose formation. Thelros studied the sensor readings carefully. The human vessels were smaller than Crethian warships, but they bristled with weapons. Strange weapons. Configurations he had never seen before. All ships assume battle formation, Vexthor commanded. Wall formation. Cruisers forward, carriers behind. We advanced together and crushed them with our superior firepower. The Crethian fleet formed up exactly as they had in hundreds of previous battles. It was a proven formation, undefeated in 800 years of warfare. 500 ships moved forward as one massive wall of metal and energy. The human ships scattered. They're running. Vexthor laughed. They see our strength and flee like cowards. All ships pursue, but the human ships didn't flee. They used something the Crethians had never seen before. Micro-jump technology, short bursts of faster-than-light travel that let them appear and disappear across the battlefield in seconds. One moment a human ship was in front of the Crethian wall, the next it was behind them, firing missiles into their engines. Evasive maneuvers. Thelros shouted, but the wall formation was too rigid, too predictable. The ships couldn't turn fast enough to track enemies that could jump around them. Human missiles swarmed through space. Not single shots, but clouds of hundreds of warheads. They used artificial intelligence to coordinate their attacks, something the galaxy considered crude and unreliable. But crude and unreliable didn't matter when there were so many of them. The missiles overwhelmed point defenses through sheer numbers. A Crethian heavy cruiser exploded. Then another. Then 5 at once. The human ships darted in and out, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. They hit engines first, crippling ships so they couldn't maneuver. Then they hit life support, then reactors. Thelros watched in horror as the battle unfolded. It wasn't a battle. It was a slaughter. The humans fought with a precision and ruthlessness that defied everything he knew about warfare. They showed no mercy. They took no prisoners. Every shot was designed to kill. 14 minutes after the battle began, it ended. 483 Crethian ships were destroyed or disabled. 17 human vessels were lost. The remaining Crethian ships, including the flagship, jumped away in panic. The Galactic Council received the battle reports in stunned silence. Military observers from a dozen species watched the recorded footage over and over, trying to understand what they had witnessed. They don't fight like us, a Zelthian military analyst said. We fight for territory, for resources, for political advantage. We disable enemy ships and take prisoners. We follow rules of engagement. The humans, they fight like they're trying to exterminate us. Every shot is lethal. Every tactic is designed for maximum casualties. Another observer, a crystalline being from the Theros Collective, added its assessment. Look at how they coordinate. Those micro-jumps require split-second timing. One miscalculation, and they would collide with each other. But they execute it perfectly. This isn't something they learned recently. They've been practicing this for decades. Ambassador Chen addressed the council once more. You asked why we fight this way. Let me tell you about human history. We spent thousands of years fighting each other. We developed concepts like total war, where entire populations became targets. We created weapons that could end civilizations. We learned that half measures in war only prolong suffering. So when we fight to end it quickly and decisively. We don't enjoy it, but we're very, very good at it. Over the next 6 weeks, the pattern repeated. Every Crethian attempt to break the blockade failed. They tried overwhelming force. They tried stealth attacks. They tried coordinating assaults on multiple junctions simultaneously. Nothing worked. The human fleet operated like a single organism, each part supporting the others with perfect coordination. The siege began to bite. Crethian colonies ran short on supplies. Food shipments couldn't get through. Medical supplies dwindled. Fuel for their ships became scarce. The mighty Dominion was starving. Admiral Kowalski maintained the pressure. After each battle, her ships broadcast the same message into Crethian space. The names of the Sedna victims, all 2,400 names, read slowly and clearly. It took hours to read the complete list. The message played on repeat, reminding the Crethians exactly why this was happening. Captain Thelros confronted Admiral Vexthor in private. Sir, we must negotiate. We're losing ships faster than we can replace them. Our people are suffering. This war is unwinnable. We will not surrender to humans. Vexthor struck the wall with all four fists. The dishonor would be unbearable. Better to die fighting than live in shame. With respect, sir, it's not your death you're choosing. It's the death of millions of our people who had nothing to do with Sedna. They're suffering because of our pride. Vexthor grabbed Thelros by the throat. You dare question me? I should have you executed for cowardice. Thelros met his commander's gaze without flinching. Execute me if you must, but it won't change the truth. We awakened something we didn't understand. The humans don't fight for glory or conquest. They fight because we killed their children, and they won't stop until they get justice. A new broadcast appeared on all frequencies. Human ships began transmitting a countdown, not to an attack, not to a deadline, just numbers descending slowly. 1,000 hours, 999 hours, 998. The Crithians didn't know what it meant. Was it counting down to an invasion? To some superweapon? To orbital bombardment of their homeworld? The uncertainty spread like poison through their society. Millions of citizens demanded answers. The government had none to give. When the countdown reached 0, every human ship simultaneously jumped away from their blockade positions. For 24 hours there was silence. No attacks, no messages, no movement. The Crithian fleet scrambled to reinforce their positions, expecting a new assault. Then long-range sensors detected them. Every human warship in the fleet, all 4,200 vessels, were converging on a single point in space. They weren't heading for Crithian military bases or strategic outposts. They were heading for Crithia Prime, the homeworld, where 14 billion Crithians lived. Admiral Vexthor watched the sensor display with dawning horror. They wouldn't dare. It would be genocide. The Council would never allow it. Thelros shook his head slowly. The Council couldn't stop them if they tried. And after what we did at Sedna, do you really think the humans care what the Council allows? The human fleet jumped into orbit around Crithia Prime. Not attacking, just watching. 4,200 warships surrounded the planet in perfect formation. The message was clear. There was nowhere left to hide. 14 billion Crithians looked up at their sky and saw death waiting. The human fleet filled orbital space like a swarm of metal locusts. Every news broadcast showed the same image. Thousands of warships, their weapons trained on the planet below, holding an entire civilization hostage. Admiral Kowalski sat in her command chair, watching the tactical display. Her fleet held perfect formation. Not a single ship out of position. Not a single weapon firing. They had made their point simply by arriving. Ma'am, Crithian defense platforms are requesting instructions, her tactical officer reported. They're asking if they should power up weapons. Tell them no, Kowalski said quietly. Tell them that if they so much as activate a targeting sensor, we will consider it an act of war and respond accordingly. Tell them to sit quietly and wait. The Crithian defense platforms, massive orbital installations that could destroy fleets, remained dark and silent. Their commanders weren't fools. They could count. They were outnumbered 20-1. Any fight would last seconds. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives shouted at each other, demanding action. The Zelthion councilor's crystalline form pulsed angry red. This is an act of aggression against all civilized species. The humans must withdraw immediately. Ambassador Chen stood calmly at the center of the chaos. We will withdraw when the Crithian government surrenders those responsible for the Sedna massacre. Not before. You're holding an entire planet hostage. They held our people hostage when they demanded evacuation in 30 minutes, Chen replied. They held our people hostage when they opened fire on a civilian research station. They held our children hostage when they murdered them without mercy. Now we're simply teaching them what it feels like. A transmission broadcast from the Indomitable to Crithia Prime, and to every member of the Galactic Council. Admiral Kowalski's face appeared on billions of screens across the galaxy. People of Crithia, she began, her voice calm and measured. I want you to understand your situation clearly. Your leaders killed 2,400 of our people. They were scientists, teachers, children, families. They died screaming as your warships tore apart their home. Your leaders laughed about it afterward. They called us weak. They said we wouldn't dare respond. She paused, letting the words sink in. They were wrong. We are not weak. We are patient. And our patience has limits. You have 48 hours. Your military leadership will surrender for trial. Every officer involved in the Sedna massacre will face justice. Your government will pay full reparations. You will cede all disputed territories. The display behind her showed the human fleet, thousands of ships waiting. If you refuse, we will not invade your planet. We will not kill billions of civilians, but we will reduce your civilization to the pre-spaceflight era. Every satellite will be destroyed. Every space station will be gone. Every shipyard will be rubble. Every off-world colony will be cut off. You will be prisoners on your own world for the next 1,000 years while you rebuild what your leader's arrogance destroyed. Kowalski leaned forward, her eyes hard. You murdered our innocent. We could do far worse, but we choose restraint. This is the only mercy you will receive. The choice is yours. The transmission ended. On Krithia Prime, riots erupted. Millions of citizens surrounded government buildings, demanding their leaders accept the terms. The Krithian economy collapsed overnight. No one worked. No one ate. Everyone simply watched the sky and waited. In the military command center, Admiral Vexthor raged. We will not surrender. I would rather die with honor than live in shame. Prepare the fleet for a final battle. Captain Thelros had heard enough. He signaled to his most trusted officers. They had discussed this possibility for days. When Vexthor turned his back, they moved. What are you doing? Vexthor roared as restraints locked around his arms. This is treason. This is survival, Thelros said quietly. You've led us to the edge of extinction because you couldn't admit you were wrong. 2,400 humans died because of illegal mining operations. Now you want 14 billion Krithians to die because of your pride. I won't allow it. Military police led Vexthor away. The former admiral screamed threats and curses. Thelros ignored him. He had more important work to do. The civilian government held an emergency vote. The debate lasted 8 hours. Some representatives argued for continued resistance. Most recognized the reality. They were defeated. The only question was whether they would accept reasonable terms or face complete annihilation. The vote was 473 to 27 in favor of surrender. Captain Thelros, now acting military commander, broadcast a message to the human fleet. This is Captain Thelros of the Krithian Dominion Military. We accept your terms. Admiral Vexthor and all officers involved in the Sedna incident will be surrendered for trial. We will pay reparations. We will cede the disputed territories. We ask only that you honor your word and show mercy to our people who had no part in these crimes. Admiral Kowalski received the message on the Indomitable's bridge. She felt no joy, no sense of victory, only exhaustion. Her son was still dead. 2,400 people were still gone. This wouldn't bring them back, but it was justice. Acknowledge their surrender, she ordered. Begin withdrawal procedures. Leave a garrison fleet to maintain order during the transition. The rest of us are going home. Ambassador Chen watched from the council chamber as human ships began leaving Krithian space. The Zelthion counselor approached him, its crystalline form subdued. Your people have made their point, Ambassador. But you've also frightened the entire galaxy. Many species are now discussing the human problem. They fear what you might do next. Chen turned to face the counselor. Good, fear is the beginning of respect. For 47 years, we tried to earn respect through peace and cooperation. It didn't work. Maybe fear will succeed where friendship failed. Is that really what you want? A galaxy that fears you? Chen was quiet for a long moment. No, but it's better than a galaxy that thinks it can murder us without consequence. The Krithians learned that lesson. Let's hope no one else needs to learn it the hard way. The trials began 3 weeks later. Admiral Vexthor and 47 other officers faced a special tribunal. The evidence was overwhelming. Sensor logs, communication records, witness testimony from surviving Krithian personnel who had objected to the attack. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty of crimes against sentient life. The sentences ranged from imprisonment to exile. The Galactic Council, desperate to repair relations with humanity, accepted the judgments without protest. On Krithia Prime, Captain Thelros addressed his people. We have learned a terrible lesson. We thought we were strong because we had many ships. We thought we were superior because we were older. We were wrong. True strength comes from wisdom. True superiority comes from knowing when to show mercy. The humans tried to teach us these lessons peacefully. We refused to listen, so they taught us the hard way. He paused, looking directly at the camera. Let this be remembered. The humans did not come to conquer us. They came to seek justice. They could have destroyed us completely. They chose not to. That choice was a gift. We would do well to remember it. Admiral Kowalski stood on Earth at a memorial built on a hillside overlooking the ocean. 2,400 names were carved into black stone. Her son's name was there, 17th from the top. She touched the letters gently. Ambassador Chen found her there. They stood in silence for a while, watching the sun set over the water. "The council wants to give you a medal," Chen said finally, "for showing restraint." Kowalski laughed bitterly. "Restraint? Is that what we're calling it? We held an entire planet hostage, but you didn't pull the trigger. You could have. You wanted to, but you didn't. My son would have wanted me to show mercy," Kowalski said quietly. "He believed in the better angels of our nature. I hope I honored that belief." The sun disappeared below the horizon. Stars began appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, human ships stood guard, watching, waiting, ensuring that Sedna would never happen again. The Zelthion Collective watched humanity's victory over the Krithians with growing alarm. As the founders of the Galactic Council and its most powerful member, they had maintained order in the galaxy for 3,000 years. They achieved this through a simple principle. They were always the strongest. No species could challenge them. No one dared try, until humanity showed that strength could be hidden, that power could be disguised, that a seemingly weak species could reveal itself as anything but weak. The Zelthion High Command convened in their crystalline chambers. 17 minds merged into a single consciousness to discuss the problem. They concluded that humanity represented an existential threat to galactic order. If humans could hide their strength so effectively, what other species might be doing the same? The entire power structure of the galaxy could collapse. "We must act," the High Command declared. "We must remind humanity of their place. We must show the galaxy that the old order still stands." 15,000 Zelthion warships mobilized. It was the largest fleet assembled in 500 years. They jumped to Krithia Prime, where human ships were still withdrawing after the Krithian surrender. Admiral Kowalski received the alert on the Indomitable. "Ma'am, we have incoming. Zelthion Collective. 15,000 vessels. They're demanding we withdraw immediately and submit to council arbitration." Kowalski studied the tactical display. 15,000 against her remaining fleet of 3,800. The odds were not good. But she had learned something important over the past months. Numbers weren't everything. "Open a channel," she ordered. "All frequencies. I want every species in the galaxy to hear this." Her face appeared on screens across known space, in council chambers, on news broadcasts, in military command centers. Billions of beings watched and waited to see what the human would say. "We came to the stars 50 years ago with hope in our hearts," Kowalski began. "We brought our music, our art, our stories. We wanted to join the community of civilized species. We wanted to learn and share and grow together. We followed your laws. We respected your traditions. We asked for nothing except the chance to be part of something greater than ourselves." Her expression hardened. "The Krithians tested us. They killed our people. They laughed at our pain. We responded with justice, measured and precise. We could have destroyed their homeworld. We could have slaughtered billions. We didn't. We showed mercy they never offered our families." She gestured to the display showing the Zelthion fleet. "Now you come, Zelthion Collective, to restore order, to put us in our place, to remind us that elder species make the rules and younger species obey. You bring 15,000 ships to intimidate us, to make us submit, to prove that might makes right." Kowalski smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Let me teach you something about humanity. We spent thousands of years on our homeworld learning a simple lesson. We don't kneel well. Every time someone tried to conquer us, we resisted. Every time someone tried to enslave us, we rebelled. Every time someone told us to submit, we fought back. It's in our nature. It's in our bones. It's who we are." She paused, letting the words hang in the air. "You want to test humanity very well, but understand what you're testing. You're not testing our fleet. You're testing our resolve. And I promise you our resolve is stronger than your ships." Then something happened that no one expected. Every human ship in the galaxy activated a coordinated transmission. Data packets flooded across every communication channel. Terabytes of information broadcast openly for all to see. The Zelthion High Command received the transmission with growing horror. It contained complete technical specifications of their military assets, detailed intelligence on their government structure, economic vulnerabilities, tactical plans, locations of hidden fleets, specifications for secret weapons programs, communications they thought were encrypted and secure. The transmission included the same information for every other species in the Galactic Council. Trade secrets, military weaknesses, political scandals, financial crimes. Everything. Ambassador Chen appeared before the Galactic Council as chaos erupted. Representatives shouted accusations at each other. Species that had hidden military buildups were exposed. Governments that claimed poverty while hoarding resources were revealed. Corruption that had been carefully concealed for centuries was brought into the light. For 47 years, Chen said, his voice cutting through the noise. You treated us like children. You assumed our small visible fleet was all we had. You assumed our peaceful nature meant we were harmless. You assumed our lack of territory meant we lacked capability. You were wrong about everything. He gestured to the data still flooding across every screen. We've been watching. We've been learning. We've mapped every hyperspace route in Council space. We've broken every encryption. We've infiltrated every network. We didn't do this to conquer you. We did it to survive, because we learned long ago on our own world that hoping for peace while being unprepared for war is a guarantee of extinction. The Zelthion counselor's crystalline form pulsed with rage and fear. This is an act of war. You violated the sovereignty of every species in the galaxy. No, Chen replied calmly. We've simply shown you what we're capable of. The Crithians learned their lesson with military force. We can teach the same lesson to the Zelthions the same way if necessary. Or, and I strongly suggest this option, we can end this now. We can establish new rules. We can build the peaceful galaxy we all claim to want. The Zelthion High Command analyzed the intelligence dump with their merged consciousness. They saw every defensive position they had, every tactical plan, every strategic weakness. The humans had compromised everything. Even if they attacked now, the humans would know every move before they made it. More importantly, they recognized what humanity truly was. Not conquerors seeking territory, not an expanding empire seeking dominance, but survivors who had learned to be apex predators while maintaining the appearance of prey. It was the most dangerous combination imaginable. The Zelthion fleet stood down. The Galactic Council reconvened 3 weeks later. The atmosphere was different. No more condescending attitudes toward humanity. No more dismissive gestures. Ambassador Chen stood before them as an equal, and everyone knew it. The Treaty of Sol was negotiated over 60 days. The new terms were simple. No member species could be attacked without unanimous council authorization. Every species had absolute sovereignty over their home system. Humans gained a permanent council seat with full voting rights. The Crithians would pay reparations over 50 years. Officers responsible for Sedna would serve their sentences. Most importantly, there was a new clause. The Humanity Protocol. It stated that no species could be judged weak or primitive based on fleet size or territorial extent. That appearances could be deceiving. That wisdom sometimes meant hiding strength until strength was needed. Captain Thelros attended the signing ceremony as the Crithian representative. He approached Ambassador Chen privately afterward. We were fools. We saw your small fleet and assumed you were weak. We never asked the important question. What question? Chen asked. Why would a species that survived thousands of years of war on their own planet only build 300 ships once they reached the stars? The answer should have been obvious. You didn't. You built thousands. You just hid most of them. We saw what we expected to see instead of what was really there. Chen nodded slowly. That's the lesson we hope to teach peacefully. We're glad it didn't require more bloodshed, but we were prepared for that outcome if necessary. The memorial at Sedna was completed 6 months after the treaty signing. It stood on the reconstructed station, a massive crystal structure that caught and reflected the distant light of the sun. 2,400 names were inscribed in a spiral pattern, readable from space. Representatives from every galactic species attended the dedication ceremony. Admiral Kowalski stood before the memorial with Ambassador Chen. Around them, beings from 200 worlds paid their respects. Some had opposed humanity. Others had dismissed them. Now all of them understood. They'll never look at us the same way again, Chen said quietly. Kowalski nodded. Good. Maybe now they'll remember that we didn't come to the stars to dominate anyone. But we sure as hell didn't come here to be victims either. Do you think it's over? The violence? For now, Kowalski replied. We've shown the galaxy that humanity has teeth. Now comes the harder part. We need to show them we prefer not to bite. A young girl, daughter of a human diplomat, placed flowers at the base of the memorial. Behind her, representatives from dozens of species did the same. The gesture was simple but profound. Acknowledgement, respect, understanding. The camera pulled back to show Earth, then Seoul, then the galaxy beyond. Human ships stood at strategic points throughout the sector, not as conquerors, not as occupiers, but as guardians, silent watchers making sure that what happened at Sedna would never happen again. A final transmission broadcast across all Galactic Council channels. It played in every language on every world, to every species that had learned to fear and respect humanity. From the United Government of Earth to all peoples of the galaxy, we hope the war with the Crithians is the last war humanity ever fights. But if circumstances make it necessary, we will ensure it is the last war you ever fight. We offer peace through strength. We offer friendship through respect. We offer justice through resolve. This is humanity's promise. This is humanity's warning. The transmission showed images of Sedna, of the memorial, of the names carved in crystal. Remember what happens when you mistake our patience for weakness. Remember that there is nowhere to hide from justice. Nowhere to run from consequence. Nowhere in this galaxy beyond humanity's reach when we choose to protect our own. The final image was simple. Earth, blue and green and beautiful, floating in the darkness of space. But there is always room for peace. There is always hope for cooperation. There is always the possibility of friendship. We came to the stars seeking these things. We still seek them today. The choice of which path we take together is yours. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, beings of every species looked up at their skies and wondered. Some felt fear. Others felt relief. All of them understood one simple truth. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Admiral Kowalski sat in her quarters aboard the Indomitable, looking at a picture of her son. He smiled back at her from the frame, young and hopeful and gone forever. She touched the image gently. "We got justice for you," she whispered. "I hope you would be proud of how we got it. I hope you would understand why we had to show our strength. And I hope wherever you are you can rest knowing that your death meant something, that it changed the galaxy, that it ensured no other family would suffer what we suffered." She set the picture down and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships kept watch. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning to see humanity not as victims or conquerors but as equals. It wasn't the future they had hoped for when they first reached the stars, but it was the future they had earned through blood and sacrifice and unwavering resolve. And it was a future where humanity would never again be dismissed, never again be ignored, and never again be unprepared for whatever the galaxy might bring. They had declared to the cosmos that there was nowhere to hide from human justice and human determination. The message had been received. The lesson had been learned. And humanity stood ready to face whatever came next, together and unafraid.